to Cooper Talk.
Welcome to Cooper Talk. I'm your host, Steve Cooper, and remember, I'm only as hip as my guest. I got to tell you something, people. I have not recorded in a month. I've been very, very busy, and it's great. And my guest tonight, she was on my show 10 years ago, and very interesting, a few weeks or months after, I was doing background on a show called Just Add Magic, which she was a regular on. And she was on the set, but she wasn't working that night. She was usually working. Her daughter was doing, I believe, her first background gig also. Yeah. And it was a Halloween party. And we were out in the street, and I went up and I talked to her. And my guest, she's busy, she's always working, you know her, is Amy Hill.
Hi.
Hi.
That's right. She was doing background work. She made some money.
I know. It was funny, though, because I saw you, and all of a sudden, and I was like, what a cool mom. Because you weren't working that night. You brought her to set, and my mom was always very encouraging to me. Like, I liked art when I was younger. She'd drive me, or if I went to see sports, she would drive me to Philadelphia. And it was so cool. I'm like, you know, the last thing you want to do on your day off from working, because you have long days on the set, is to be on set.
That's true. And I have to say, what was great was because the girls, their parents were on set, so they said that they would watch Penelope, so I didn't have to sit there. Because an adult has to.
Right.
So I'd find a thing for them to be able to watch her.
So you have so much going on. I know I talked to you a few months ago, and you were doing, you know, you've done a lot of one-woman shows in the past. But you were doing a night in Hawaii. Tell me about that. I know you were flying people in. I believe it was a fundraiser, and I think you were on with another guy. There was two performers that night, or tell me about what you were doing.
It was my friend Alec Mappa, who is also, you know, pretty well known, especially in the gay community, but he was on Ugly Betty and Half and Half, what is that? So he's been a regular on a bunch of shows and recurring on a bunch of stuff. He's just hilarious. He is a really, really close friend. And he wanted to do his stand-up show, his new one, in Hawaii, at the Hawaii Theater. And so in talking to them, because the theater holds like 800, it's a big theater. So he felt like he was a little bit afraid of being able to fill the house. So he suggested that I do a show with him. I didn't have a new show, but they said, oh, great, because the guys at the Hawaii Theater know me because I've been in town for a while. Anyway, so they called and said, do you have a show? And I said, well, I could write one, I guess. So I had 4 months to put together a new solo show, and I did. And it's about aging in this industry, aging in life. But it's not like bad aging. It's all like, you know, because if you're healthy and you're still working, it's really pretty good aging. And it's about sort of reinventing yourself and, you know, finding new things in life. I mean, you know, getting older is a good thing, I say.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, what's funny about aging is, you know, you've worked for a long time. You have over 200 IMDb credits. But you know, in the last 10 years, you just worked all the time. And you're so involved. Like, I saw you were involved in a Hawaii International Film Festival. I mean, tell me about that, because I saw your pictures on Facebook, and it just looks great that people are getting industry everywhere.
Yes. I mean, I've loved the Hawaii International Film Festival and the LA Asian American Film Festival and all the film festivals that sort of focus on Asian America, Pacific Rim stories. Because those used to not be in the mainstream, so you couldn't see it at a regular theater at the AMC. So for me, being able to see those stories was really important. So I liked the Hawaii International Film Festival from before. And when I moved here, it was like, and you know, the artistic director was this, well, I don't know if he was not the artistic director, but in LA, he was curator, at least, of all the films. So I knew him. And he has Hawaii base as well. His family owns a really well-known Vietnamese restaurant that is kind of upscale, new wave kind of thing. So he was here too. And I was like, Anderson Lee, what are you doing here? And he's like, my family's here. And I went, oh, so he curates all the films. So they're just fantastic shorts. And they really focus on, uplifting Hawaiian stories. So there's part of it is Made in Hawaii Festival, within it, Made in Hawaii shorts, Made in Hawaii narrative and documentaries as well. And they also are a Academy eligible film festival. So there are films in the festival that now have eligibility for being nominated for an Academy Award, which is saying something. So it's a really, Roger Ebert loved this festival. He used to come here every year. Anyway, I love it. So because I love it so much, and it's a small island, so they, pretty much they just embraced me and welcomed me in. So now I judge. I'm at almost every film. I do whatever I need to do. Whatever they want me to do, I'm there.
Now, talking about Hollywood, as I said, you've worked for a long time, and you were an All-American Girl, and that was a big series for the Asian Americans population. Yeah. How do you think, has the industry changed? It's changed, but has it changed in your eyes enough? Because it's something that there are more. Of course, there's more Asian American roles, and when I talked to Dustin Gwynn, he wasn't cast as an Asian. He was cast as an American Asian in 21 Jump Street. So for you, what is your take on it? Because you've been in the industry, you've constantly worked. So do you think it's gotten better? But do you think, how much further does it have to go to get better? I mean, what's your input on that?
Well, I think the more people we have writing our stories and producing our stories and creating, the people behind the scenes, those are the ones that will facilitate the stories. And the stories have to come from our community because, it's always said, write what you know. So if people are producing and writing are not Asian, it's really hard for them to write well for people like me or anybody. So I think it's getting better because we have more people in positions of power or creative positions that will bring these stories. And we also see that they've expanded to include, Korean filmmakers. Like before, you'd see these Korean films in just festivals. And I was like, man, these direct, just like, it's new, not new now, but Parasite, that kind of film would never even been mainstream 10 years ago. Now they are looking at the Korean filmmakers and the Japanese filmmakers and the mainland China filmmakers, Hong Kong, Taiwan, all around the Pacific Rim. I know that some New Zealand film that was in the festival here last year was in distribution in the United States, a film called Tina, which was really good. So, when that stuff starts happening, it makes it, of course it's not really access for me necessarily, but those stories will inform the general public that these are universal stories. Everybody has a family, everybody has the same issues, so they won't look at us as, other so much anymore. And being part of the diaspora of the world, I love South Asian films a lot too. I just was in LA to MC the East West Players Gala. And the next day I was at LATC watching a play written by a South Asian, just with a mother and son, on their way to college. And it was just like so delightful because it's universal at the same time, two different generations kind of trying to figure each other out and learn to appreciate each other, just like every other family, especially if you have an immigrant mother or father. But it was also, in a way, surprising at every turn because it's another culture. So you're learning about stuff at the same time. It was really, I just love not being given the same thing every time I go to a movie or a play. I want to be surprised, enlightened, educated about different cultures and different worlds. So that I feel is a positive that's happening now.
Well, a positive that's happening is, I want to talk about a lot of work you've done, but Magnum PI, it's funny, my wife, Joanne, always watches reruns of TV. So, she'll sit there, and that's on. And I'll see you every Saturday, because it's on Saturday. She's watching it when she's doing something. I'm like, hey, it's Amy Hill. And she's like, yeah. And she loves that show. But I want to know, how did you get cast on that? And did you think that, you went to Hawaii to shoot it? Did you think you'd fall in love with Hawaii, or had you been to Hawaii a bunch of other times?
Well, being multiracial Asian, I went to university in Tokyo, so I stopped in Hawaii on my way to school, and it was the first time I was ever here, and I thought, why wasn't I raised here? Because everybody looks like me. Nobody looks at me and goes, what are you? It was just a miracle. So I'm in Japan, and every time I came back, to visit at Christmas or whatever, I'd always stop in Hawaii. So I became really comfortable with being here because I felt so like it was my home, even though I was raised in Seattle. I've always loved it. And then when my daughter was born, I would bring her here, and she also multiracial, looks like she could be, Polynesian or whatever. She loved it. So her dream school when she graduated from high school was the University of Hawaii. And she got in. Wasn't that hard, I don't think. But she got in. And fortunately for me, the tuition, they have some kind of reciprocal thing where you pay resident plus 50%. So it was very, not cheap, but much more affordable than East Coast schools that my friends' kids were going to. So she got into UH. And then maybe a couple weeks before she was going to be, loading into the dorms, I got a call from the showrunner of Magnum PI. And he was also the showrunner for Hawaii Five-0, Peter Lenkoff. I got a call from my agent saying Peter wanted to have a meeting with me. And I'm like, why? I don't know any names of anybody. I've been in this business forever. I don't know how anything works. So she says he wants to have a meeting with you. And I go to his office, and I'm sitting on a sofa, and he's like telling me about this Magnum PI. I never watched the original because I was living in Japan. And then when I came back here, I was doing theater. And we didn't have DVRs.
Right.
So I had no idea about anything. So he said that there was a new character that he was going to put in that would be like the Hawaii element, besides the beautiful landscape and lovely place we live in. And he didn't have really an idea of what I was. I was the cultural curator, whatever that means. I didn't know how I fit in. And I literally was like, I don't know, because I was doing okay. I was making good money on all the little things I was doing. My daughter was leaving, and I thought, now's my chance to do theater again. And I was going up to Oregon to talk to the artistic director there because he wanted me to come and be, in the company, do a 6-month or 9-month residency. And I was like, this is it. I got to do it before I get too old and I can't remember lines. So I was like, because I didn't need the money. But everybody around me was like, are you stupid? And I went, maybe. So I said yes. And I literally, it was only a contract that would go till December. And then if we got picked up for the back nine, we'd go for more. But I thought, who's going to pick? What? Who wants this? So I thought I'd be there till December. Life would be good. And then I'd come back, and then I'd go back to Oregon Shakespeare or whatever. And then I guess it was good. So I went with my daughter to put her into school, dropped her off. And then as I'm dropping her off, I say, okay, so here's the deal. Imagine I'm getting on a plane going back to Los Angeles because I'm going to be here until December. And she's like, huh? What? So we didn't see each other that much because I was working and she was, getting used to being a student. But, I missed that whole thing of crying. All my friends were like, I dropped my kid off at school. And I'm like, yeah, I dropped my kid off at school. And she's like a couple miles from me.
So the show gets picked up for the full season. Now, after that, are you thinking you're going to get a season 2? The ratings are good because people were watching it. What's going through your mind again? Because I know you had the money and it's a primetime show on CBS, so you're making money and you don't want to give that up. but you're probably thinking, well, you're sort of saying, well, I had this good year, but if it doesn't get picked up, I can go back to what I wanted to do with extra money. I mean, what was it? Where were you at after that first year was over?
Well, we got picked up for the back nine. And then in the new year, before we even wrapped that season, we got picked up for season 2 because our numbers were good. Everything. So at the beginning of January 2019, we got picked up for another season. But I still don't know we're going to, last that long. So at hiatus, pack everything up, go back to LA, and then I went back, got a new apartment, put everything in the apartment, and then I don't know what's going to happen, but we do get picked up for season 3. But we don't, we have to wait. That time we have to wait till like the last minute. So at the end of June, they picked us up. So it's like, okay, I don't want to be packing everything up and going back and packing everything up. I like it here. And, by that time, I'd also, even when I was working in LA, I was flying to Vancouver and working. And, so I thought, I can be anywhere. It doesn't matter. So I started looking during season 3, I started looking for places to live here. So I bought a condo and I signed the escrow papers. And 3 days later, we were in shutdown. Yeah. So we were already in season 3. So that's good. But we were in shutdown. But the good thing was my daughter was here. I was here. I had no furniture, but I had a place. And it was good that I was here, 2020.
What did you do during shutdown? Because, I talked to a lot of musicians who really liked it because they didn't have to go on the road and they could spend time with their families. But then I talked to a lot of actors who were going crazy because so much of an actor is working or auditioning or doing theater. That's that interaction. Like a musician is always on the road. Actors aren't always. So what did you do during shutdown? Did you suffer any depression? Because I know a lot of people who got really depressed who were the creative types.
I'm actually more of an introvert, so the shutdown was kind of a gift. I had an excuse not to see people, not to talk to people. But I had Zoom families. I don't know if you know Getty Watanabe.
He did my show, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they all did your show. So, I had my little group, Emily Kuroda. All these are like, some of my best friends. So we had a weekly cocktail. And we'd like debrief about our anxieties about, COVID and how we could get COVID and blah, blah, blah. But while we were drinking, it was fantastic. And then I thought, I'll write a book, I'll write a play, I'll write a screenplay, I'll do this and that. And I just made bread. I made bread. I filled my life. I also, because I had no furniture, I was ordering furniture online. And then because of my IKEA furniture skills, I was able to put together all my furniture by myself, which was also my workout, because all our workout places, the pools were closed, the gym was closed, everything was closed. So that was my workout. And I did plays. I did a lot of readings online, play readings online, which was kind of cool because I never got opportunities to work necessarily with all the actors on the East Coast or San Francisco. So I was working with really wonderful actors that I might not have had the opportunity to work with doing these Zoom readings, which was really fun. And I watched a lot of readings, watched some plays. It's not the best way to watch. I also went to the Sundance Film Festival online. So South by Southwest was online, Sundance was online. All the film festivals were online, so I got to see a bunch of movies that I might not have been able to see because I hate going to crowded places like Sundance or any place that's crowded.
So it's funny because you do theater and you hate crowds. It's just always funny. It's one of those things. It's like you need a crowd, but you hate them, and that's normal. I think a lot of people, you do that. Like like when I do comedy shows, I want a crowd to be there, but then I'm like, well,
It's when they all crowd around you, you're like, ah.
yeah, it's like, thanks, I got to get out of here. I want to go. I always leave, and I want to drive home. So, okay, so the pandemic ends, and they call you back to set. How excited was everyone? Because your set, it seemed like a really close knit crew of people that worked with you, the actors. It seems like sometimes you can tell people don't like each other. You can tell it, but you guys, everyone just seemed like they were really, really nice. So it must have been good to actually get back on set then.
Yeah, I mean, we were really lucky that we started, I think, in October. Yeah, I mean, our season 3 was shortened. I can't remember because of the pandemic thing. But then season 4, we were able to come back pretty early to set. I think that was season 4. I don't remember anymore. But we got back October, and we had to wear masks, and we had a COVID guy on set who would tell us, what we could do. All the hair and makeup people all had to wear shields, too, and masks, which was hard for them to do makeup because they, couldn't see that well. But, yeah, it was good because we felt pretty safe because of these COVID monitors that were everywhere, watching to make sure that we stayed clean, and we had all those little hand washing stations, and yeah, so nobody got sick. Everybody was healthy.
I heard Crafty wasn't that good during the pandemic because remember you could just go up to Crafty and take this and take that, and now they said they had to give it to you because before, when I would do any background, I was the king of those Nature Valley granola bars. I throw like five of them in my backpack and go, but they said you couldn't do that.
Yeah, you couldn't touch anything. Yeah, it wasn't fun anymore, Crafty. And catering, too. You had to order your food, and then they put it in a to-go box. So, yeah, you couldn't pick anything. Well, tiny things. This is not a big deal. We were happy to be going back to work and felt very grateful. And then we had to get COVID tested, I think, every week before every episode. I can't remember. We got tested regularly. So we'd have to go down somewhere in Waikiki to some office and get tested before we work.
Now, the show, did it get canceled after season 4, or was it the creators decide to stop doing it?
Season 5. But season 5 was season 5A and B. I don't know why. Because then they wouldn't have to pay us as much, or they wouldn't have to bump us up or something. Whatever. Anyway, but we got canceled during the writer's strike, which, makes sense. They just were like, if this is an expensive show. Anyway, they just canceled us. But I was already doing Lilo and Stitch.
Now tell me about that, because you were in the original one. Tell me your whole Lilo and Stitch story, because I saw you said something about your daughter. I saw an interview with you. You mentioned about your daughter and Lilo and Stitch, or tell me about the whole Lilo and Stitch, the trajectory.
I wasn't aware my daughter had watched the animation like 10 times over the course of her childhood and youth. But I was Mrs. Hasegawa in the animation, and I also did the series. I played Mrs. Hasegawa and, various characters during the series. That was on Disney. And I auditioned for this character. So, I worked to get it. I didn't just have it handed to me, but I auditioned, but I worked hard with the locals to make sure my pigeon was good, because this is kind of a nosy neighbor pigeon speaking lady in the neighborhood. So I got it, which was great, but Disney's very cheap, so I didn't get paid very much. And I thought it was going straight to Disney Plus because it was crazy. And when I saw it in the theater, I brought my daughter and my sister. My daughter was like sobbing. She said, "Mama, you made me cry." It was really good. Have you seen it? The live action?
I need to watch it.
Really good. They hired a lot of first-time actors and people that were not, so they didn't, I think because they didn't have to pay them, but they were also really good. The girl that played Lilo never acted before, and she was like 7, but she was brilliant. And also the woman who played her sister, had done maybe a couple of things, but also not a well-known person. Anyway, all the people were brilliant. The director was lovely, but a little chaotic. He'd done animation, nominated for an Oscar for some animation he'd done. And he was lovely, but, the shoot was incredibly chaotic.
Now,
and
you had fun though, right?
Oh, no, I didn't have that much fun because we were supposed to shoot 4 pages a day. We maybe got through 2. So for me, I also, I live here, so I was paid as a local. So I didn't get per diem or any of that stuff, and I had to drive myself to set. So I'm driving in the rain and going into mud, and it wasn't that fun, just saying. And also when you're talking to a tennis ball, because there's no stitch, it's not that much fun. But I did my job. I worked really hard, and it turned out great, which is everything. I had a stunt double for some of the stuff that I had to do. I rode an ATV, and I said I'm not going down hills and I'm not going up hills. It's too scary. So I had a stunt double for that, but I did do my own flat riding. And, I did my best, and I think I did okay. So that's good. My daughter said I made her cry. That's important.
That is important. Well, now, and then we can't forget that you were also in Ballard, which was a great show, and it's one of those things. Well, you know, people were going to watch it because it's a spin-off of Bosch and Bosch Legacy, and they're shows. They have people who enjoy good TV. So they had Maggie Q in the last episode of Bosch Legacy. And it's sort of an introduction. So then when it came out, me and my wife were very happy to watch it. And I didn't know you were in it. Then we saw you. I'm like, hey, it's Amy Hill. And my wife goes, yeah, it's Amy Hill. So how did you have to audition? Was that given to you? Or how did that come about? And then I got to ask you where you shot that, where you're seen in your house. Was that in Malibu?
Well, the interiors were in a sound stage at the Red Studios, which are the old Raleigh studios in Hollywood. And then the exterior was shot in Malibu at the, what's that pretty park with that beach?
I don't know.
I used to take my daughter there all the time. Near the Malibu Pier, it's just down the street, and there's like a little restaurant there. But that exterior, it was a mobile home, and I was told it's a $2.2 million mobile home. Because of the view, it's right in front of the ocean. Amazing. But I never went inside because it was just exteriors.
So how did that role come about?
Well, again, they approached my agent, and it was between me and one other person who is a really good friend of mine. But both of us were like, what's the point of our character? Because it's a procedural, and we're just there for Maggie Q. It wasn't like a hard part. It wasn't that necessarily that interesting at all. We were serving the show, which made sense. But I didn't know if I really wanted to do another procedural. Anyway, but my agent was like, have you seen Bosch? And I went, no. So I watched Bosch, and I went, oh, fuck. This writing is good. And the actors are all good. And I was like, okay, all right. So, I ended up doing it, which is a blessing because everybody on that show is so kind and good. And all the other actors, I never get to work with them because they're in the procedural part. They're all lovely. And Maggie Q is so kind and professional, and we get a lot done. Every director that came through, beautiful. Kind, fun, easygoing, professional, really fast. So it was a pleasure to do. And because I was also hired as a local, which is fine because I have a place in LA and I have a car. So I would fly myself in like a day before shoot and then fly myself out the next day. So I was still living in Hawaii. Yeah. It was like the perfect job. I loved it so much, and I'm like, What a blessing. I had no idea. And my agent was like so happy too. Because I was like, I don't know. And he's like, Amy, watch the show. Oh, okay. Oh, never mind. It just was so much fun. And I'm really, really happy that it's got a second season.
Now, will you be on the second season, do you know? Or
Yeah. I'm very, yeah.
especially because, well, I'm not going to give any cliffhangers, but the end of the first season, you know, we see, I'm not going to tell you people what happens. Go watch it. Go watch Ballard, because you sit there and the last scene of the last episode, you're like, holy shit, what's going to happen? And you're mad because you know she's great. And you're like, she's framed, and it gets you mad. And it's so, it was one of those things.
Yeah, it was a beautiful. When I saw the episode, then I got to see all the other actors, and they're all so wonderful. You know, the writing is really wonderful, but the actors are also slightly, you know, they're all very individual, quirky, kind of this or that, but nothing feels pushed because they're all good at what they do. So it feels just like this lovely patchwork of people that you would love to be with every week. You want to hang out with these people. I love the show. And Michael Connolly was on set every time I was there.
Okay.
It's so lovely, too.
So
I just love everybody on that show.
see that? Well, that's good, and I'm glad it's season 2. So, you know, we talked about this years ago, but what got you into acting? Because, you know, you think about it, you are a groundbreaker somewhat to the Asian American community. As you know, I mean, people don't like to say that. You would be looked to as a role model because you were getting roles and working early on. But what got you into acting? What was your driving force that made you sit there and go, I want to be an actor?
Well, came out of the womb wanting to act. When I was born in Deadwood, South Dakota. I was there till I was 6. All I had was a TV. So I'd watch TV, and then I'd recreate everything in my living room by myself, all the characters. I would do everything myself. My mom thought I might be a little schizophrenic, so she was worried about my mental health. And then we go to Seattle, and in Seattle, I'm sort of an introvert, so I didn't have a lot of friends, but I used to just perform on the front porch for the neighbors. That's it. I just always wanted to perform. And like talent shows that happened in elementary school, there were no people around me that were supporting my dreams. So I'd see a talent show and I go, how'd they get up there? Nobody told me about, how to get into the talent show, because I would have done anything. So I was always kind of motivating quietly, shyly. And then by the time I got into high school, I got the nerve up to take a drama class. And that's when everything changed. The drama teacher was incredibly supportive. I realized that everybody in the drama class was like, crazy people like me. The drama group is always the kind of weird people that nobody wants to hang out with. That's me. So, we misfits hung out together. I did every play all through high school. And that drama teacher loved me and made me feel like I was special.
So then what made you go to Tokyo for college?
Well, my mom's Japanese and my dad's Finnish, and I really wanted to get out of Seattle. So I was really good in language. I spoke Spanish, French, and they had Japanese classes in high school, so I had a little Japanese. But I wasn't that good. But I wanted to go to France just for a year, just to go reinvent myself. And my mom said you could go to Japan. And my dad was like, you could go to Finland. And I'm like, Finland was really obscure. So I applied to a university in Tokyo and got in. So right after high school graduation, I was on a plane to Japan. I mean, I just wanted to get out of Seattle. I wasn't intending to be there for 6 years, but I was. And then I was like, wait a minute, I remembered now that I wanted to be an actor. So I came, but in Japan, I was also doing, I had a radio show. I did appearances. I was like a talento, they call talent. So I was doing, little things, but I also wanted to act. And they were like, yeah, right. So I moved back to San Francisco which is where I joined the Asian American Theater Company and started doing improv, sketch comedy, studied at ACT, and did nothing but acting and sketch comedy like 24/7 for 7 years. And then I fell into voiceover work.
What was the scene like in San Fran then? Because I know San Fran, like for comedy, stand up, San Fran has always been the very hip, smart crowd. But what was it like? The scene and who were some of the people you were working with?
Well, Robin Williams would be on stage with me, but that meant I didn't have anything to do because he just took over. But I mean, he was always guesting. He could walk into any club and go, can I play? And they'd say, "What? Duh, yeah." He was always brilliant. Rob Schneider was also around. Kevin Meaney was around. Margaret Cho was still a little baby, I think. This is the 80s. So, yeah, I mean, I remember watching Kevin Meaney on stage because I had another friend who was performing, and they would come on, like at midnight or something, and there'd be 3 people there. And so I can't leave, right? Because these people, you feel bad. So I'm there. And yeah, I mean, it was a wonderful place, and improv. And the improv that was done was like the improv groups that I was in were always talking about politics. So it was very smart, based on newspaper headlines. So you really had to be smart in improv. Well, I wasn't that smart, but I was really good at responding.
Kevin Meaney was so funny, bless his soul. He was one of the funniest people. I remember he went on the Tonight Show and he did that "We Are the World." Like, he's national TV on Carson and he's doing this totally outrageous bit and it kills. I mean, I remember my mom would sit there because I wanted to start doing stand-up comedy. She always goes, my mom knew his act. She's like, "We're big pant people." And I was just like, I'm like, how did my mom know his act? But he must have been funny to watch late at night.
I mean, I'm trying to remember that Paula Poundstone was around. There were so many people. I'm really bad with names. But, I did go see people, and a lot of the same clubs did improv and sketch comedy. So it was fun. I did one time stand-up, one time, and the club let me go, like, at a good time. Like, before Rob Schneider, I remember walking by him, and he said, "Don't do anything your friends think is funny." "Oh, thank you, Rob, asshole." So I go on stage because my whole thing was all what my friends thought was funny. Fortunately, I have no memory because I was so nervous. But I think I did okay. But that was the end of my stand-up career because I was like, this not fun.
But
I'm all by myself.
You didn't do stand-up, but you started doing one-woman shows, right?
Well, that was when I moved to L.A.
What took you to L.A.? What made you decide to go to L.A.?
Well, I was too successful in San Francisco. Lord knows, don't want any of that. So I was really successful in San Francisco. But I'd worked with everybody. I'd done everything. And I just thought I needed a challenge. So I went to L.A. just because a friend of mine was gone for this summer, and he let me sublet his place. So I started taking classes. And while I'm there, I'm in these classes and going, these people are amazing. The actors were so good. And then I realized people were coming from all over, New York, Chicago, Seattle, London. I mean, they were coming to Hollywood to build a career to make some money. And I had not thought of that because I'm not that girl. But I thought, I need to be here because I need to be challenged. I need to up my game because I never felt challenged in San Francisco. At that time, I felt like I'm just doing the same damn thing all the time, over and over again. There was no feeling of challenge. So when I moved to LA, I started at East West Players, which was filled with, people who'd been on Broadway and had gotten, Mako got his an Oscar nomination for Sand Pebbles. So I was working with really amazing Asian American actors who also were so embracing and supportive and helping me to sort of feel safe at the time. Because you go to LA and it's like you stand on the, Griffith Park looking around at the city going, what the hell did I do? And you get those books that say there's 200 agents and 5,000 casting people. And It's like, where do you start? I couldn't get an agent for a long time, but I did manage to get somebody. Um, and then because I was living on unemployment for the first time, I was asked, because I spoke Japanese, I was asked to be an interpreter on a Japanese American co-production in Monterey. So I was up there doing this interpreting, which was hell, but I did it. I was making $1,000 a week, which is fantastic. But I got a call from LA. The Japanese American Community and Culture Center said, "We heard you had a solo show." And I said, "Yes, but I didn't." And this is before, computers and stuff. So they said, "Well, can you send it to us?" And I said, "Oh, everything's in LA. I can't." So they said, okay. They trusted me. And within 3 months, I had written a 30-minute solo show, rehearsed it, and put it up at the Japanese American Cultural and Community Center as part of a solo fest. And then everybody I'd worked with before, San Francisco wanted it, Seattle wanted it, so I expanded it and did it in Seattle, San Francisco, and then did it at the East West Players as a world premiere. And it was written up in the LA Times, and I got Sylvie Drake to say, Critics' Choice.
What was it about?
My experience in Tokyo. I mean, I knew there was something in there, but I didn't know it was a solo show. I just knew I wanted to write about that experience because it was profound for me. Because growing up in Seattle, I always felt othered. And in Japan, I was othered in a good way. I mean, I was cool because I was Hapa. In Seattle, it was not so good being mixed race. It was still racist. It was under, nobody overtly was racist towards me, but I was always othered in many ways by the Japanese community, by the Caucasians, and everybody just thought, ew. And
So you write the show and it's a hit, Critics' Choice. Now then, do agents start hitting you up? I mean, how does that catapult your TV and movie? I mean, that's been like, because everyone says, especially in LA, it's before the internet. If it's a Critics' Choice, people are going, "Who's this Amy Hill?"
CBS wanted to have a meeting with me. I go to CBS and they're like, "I'm with Marcy Carsey, that girl from she did the
Designing
Roseanne
Women
Barr and all that stuff. She was famous at." So I had a meeting with her, and I'm sitting on the sofa. And she's like, "What other projects do you have?" And I went, "None." Nothing. I didn't write the show to have an entree into Hollywood. I just wrote my experience. I wanted to explore it. And did you see it? I don't know if you saw it.
No.
But it was about, a question I had. What did this obviously meant something to me. So as I was writing it, I realized what it meant. The play actually sort of wrote itself. And that's why I think it was so successful because, again, being so specific, it became universal because people would come up to me, people who were multiracial, African Americans, old Jewish ladies. I mean, they'd come up and say, "That's my story." And I never imagined that. But for me, it was just an exploration of a question. What was this experience and what did it mean? And so that was really great. And then the taper asked me to write another show because the riots happened right after 92. We had the big LA riots, the Rodney King stuff. They said, "Can you write about those experiences?" So then I'd write the next show beside myself. And then on my own, I decided I wanted to write about my mother's experience. So that was called Reunion. And so that became the Tokyo Bound trilogy. Those were all things that I wanted to explore. Beside Myself started out about racism and, that othering again. But then it turned, at the end, I realized as I'm writing it that I also am part of the problem. I mean, I have, it's instilled in me as I grow up here in America, racism exists. So that's something I need to check as well. So, people didn't experience that as nicely as they did Tokyo Bound. Some people were very unhappy at the end because nobody wants to think they're racist. But you know what? I think we all have
Oh, everyone
all that.
does. And if you say you
I
beat, it
That's
doesn't.
just something you have to be aware of so that you can change it or, modulate it a little.
So
So
what happened after that meeting with Marcy Carsey?
nothing, because I had nothing. She wanted something, I had nothing. And on the spot, I could not think of anything. I did, nothing happened. And then I think Margaret, I did a little bit of my Tokyo Bound. Margaret and I performed for the Asian American Journalists Association. And I'd seen her, I mean, I knew her kind of in San Francisco because I'd gone up for fundraisers and stuff, and she would be performing, and I'd say, man, that girl has a voice that is so unique and specific. I hope somebody notices her. And then the next time I see her in LA, she's got a deal with ABC. And she goes, I've got this deal. I've got a sitcom. I'd want you to be a part of it. So I auditioned for the mom. But when I got the script, I was like, I want to be the grandma. The grandma's much more interesting. The mom is just, a foil. So they're just going to argue all the time. But the grandma, she's fun. But nobody wanted me to be the grandma because I wasn't old enough. But I played my mom all through my time in San Francisco. She was always very popular. She's quirky and interesting. So I knew that I could play older if they would just let me. So I got it. But during the whole pilot, I kept being reminded that I was on probation. Like, they weren't sure that I would be able to go to series if they got picked up. And I was just like, oh, fuck it then. It doesn't matter. I'll do whatever I want. And then I got picked up. And then I think I was one of the more popular characters on the show because when they canceled it, they did a new episode at the end, which was sort of a pilot for the possibility of a second season where me and Margaret were the only ones left from the original series. And then suddenly Margaret's got 3 roommates. They were trying to make a Friends with Margaret. And I don't know what the hell I was doing there. But suddenly I'm on buses going back and forth to visit her. I don't know. It made no sense, and I thought this is not going to go. And it didn't.
Now,
And poor Margaret, I think she was kind of devastated because she tried so hard she was in her, 25 or something. So she was really trying to please people, as all Asian Americans, or maybe everybody tries to do. She was young. But, that was great because then she went on to she was able to own her story. Literally. She owns everything she does. She writes her material, does these little movies, and she owns it all. And I think she's very successful.
so you mentioned earlier about voiceovers. You've done a lot of voiceover. What do you love? What do you love about voiceover? I mean, look at as I said, you have 200 IMDb credits, but there's a lot of voiceovers. Did you just fall into that, or was it something in the back of your head when you're doing improv, because you're probably doing characters, that you said, I'd be really good at this?
Well, when I was in San Francisco, I did a play at the Asian American Theater Company where I played a Filipina matriarch. I did a lot of research. I was really good. I had a great accent, a lot of good body stuff. And the day, like right after it closed, a call came into the theater saying they wanted somebody to audition for Philippine Airlines. And I said, oh, okay, I'll go in and audition. I was the voice of Philippine Airlines for 6 years.
Wow.
Because I knew how to do the Filipina accent, just delicate one. And they it is at Philippine Airlines. And as I'm sitting in the lobby, my improv teacher walks in and he says, oh, Amy, I didn't know you did voiceovers. And I said, yes. And I became, because of him, because he was like the grandfather of voiceovers in San Francisco. I became almost everybody's wife. I didn't even have to audition. Mother, girlfriend, whatever. But I did not do character voices. I was just like, oh, honey, that stuff. But I worked all the time. I was so I was like the top voice talent, female voice talent in San Francisco. But God knows, success is not good. I got to go. Got to get out of here. So I moved to LA. I couldn't even get a voice agent. Somebody in San Francisco told their voice agent to take me on. That's how I got a voice agent. But still, I didn't get anything. And it wasn't until I was successful in television that people asked me to do voice. Now I just get offered stuff.
See, that's awesome. You know, you've had such a good career. What are some of the highlights of your career? When you think about back on your career, what are some of the highlights, some of the gigs that you've had that really have stood out in your mind and said, you know, this is great. I'm an actor. I'm doing this. And is there certain things that stand out to you?
Well, I think my first solo show definitely, because, you know, I created it. It was about my life and I performed it. And I produced it, was a big highlight because that gave me so much power over my story, and having it be successful was really a feeling of success was actually doing it. And I was so afraid because I was going to be judged on my writing, my acting, my life. And so because it was successful, that was great. And I think for television, All American Girl was really important because that was an opportunity to give my mother her flowers. I mean, you know, my whole life I was totally embarrassed by her. And she was very, you know, people loved her in my improv and comedy stuff in San Francisco. But to be able to have her be embraced by the world, everywhere, you know, people loved my mother. That character was Margaret's grandma, but at the same time, she really was at the core an authentic person that was my mother, with a layer of Korean accent and all that other stuff. I mean, I had Korean role models that I used, and my own Korean coach that I used for myself, that I hired, because Lord knows.
Now who are some of the people you've acted with that were very huge stars and they were just so nice?
Sean Connery. I saw him as James Bond when I was growing up. So I was in Rising Sun and we were doing this scene, and in between takes, he starts telling me about his, you know, early days, and he started in musical theater. So he sang a song from South Pacific to me and then kissed me on the cheek. And not to be outdone, Harvey Keitel sings a little thing to me and kisses me on this cheek. And I'm like, Lord have mercy. I never would have thought this would happen. I mean, both of them were just wonderful. And all the people that, like, I think maybe this time I worked with Betty White for a season. Maybe this time, and, you know, Betty White was another person that I saw. Anybody I saw in black and white TV on the Mike Douglas show or whatever, if I worked with them, they all were like, oh my God, I can't believe what took me so long to come to Hollywood. I mean, they were all lovely, and just Betty was never, ever felt like she was being overworked, or she was always so pleasant, and I just loved her so much, and unbelievably smart. They would, during taping, give her a new monologue, and she'd look at it and go, okay, and she'd do it. And she was funnier off camera than she was on. I mean, there were so many people that were so special, especially the ones that, you know, never thought I'd, like, who's that Coochie Coochie girl? What's her name?
Charo.
Charo. Delightful. That was on The Naked Truth. She came, so we had all these guest stars that were amazing. The guest stars are the best, really.
What made Charo so amazing?
Well, she was just like Charo all the time. I don't know who has that kind of energy. She was amazing. And at one point, I guess, she was in an elevator and had to come out, and the elevator closed on her breasts. And she was so scared that her breasts were going to pop. She was like, oh my God. The guest stars were the best.
So
anyway,
one final question. I always ask my guests this: looking back at your career and your life, both, what are a few things that make you proud? Not highlights of your career, but things that internally make you proud.
I believe that my daughter makes me very proud because I adopted her as a newborn when I was 47. And I actually worked more after she was born than before. I mean, she was like a gift. And the universe said, now that you got a kid, we're going to give you some more work so that you can support this child. But, you know, I turned down work like Oregon Shakespeare, anything in New York, anything out of town, because I felt like I wanted to be with her. I raised her. I used a village. There were, you know, people involved that helped me, but mostly 24/7, it was me. And that, it was really hard, but it was really, I mean, I would never give up any of that. And I think it's such a lesson. I feel like I became a better actor after her because sometimes it was just because I was so tired. But you don't edit yourself. You're in the moment and you just go for it. So in many ways, she made me better. That is something that I'm really proud of. Also, I feel proud of the fact that I always kept my integrity. I never compromised anything for whatever I did. I was, you know, sometimes I think I tried to be as, you know, if something was not written well or I felt it was awkward, I would always know, because I'm also a writer, I would always know to come in with something else for them to do instead of the thing they gave me. I would not just say, I cannot say these lines. I would say, how about if I say this instead? And if I said that, I'd say 99% of the time they'd say, oh, fine, no problem. But if I just said, this is embarrassing, this is racist, this is whatever, nobody's going to like that. And then they have to think of something and they can't. So I would always come in with, so that is something that I'm proud of, that I was able to change people's, you know, perceptions in whatever was being written or performed. You know, I love an accent, and not everybody feels comfortable with accents, but I feel as though if I do a good accent, like I'm Hawaiian now, even here, everybody thinks, what island were you raised on? I'm like, the big island over there. So I just try to be as authentic and as good of a character as possible, and always try to infuse it with humanity, because we're all the same, and all that stuff is just layers on top of, because I don't want to make my mother or anybody else's immigrant parents invisible. We're all part of the tapestry of this country. So, you know, but we all have flaws. We all have a lot of stuff going on. So that's something that I feel proud of too.
Well, this has been great, Amy. I'm so glad we got to talk.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Social media. You're on Instagram, right? You do a lot of Instagram or no?
Amy Hill Actor.
Okay, so people go follow Amy Hill Actor. Go to her IMDb. Go watch her shows. Watch Ballard. You got to watch Ballard. Go to my website, coopertalk.net. You can find over 1,050 episodes. You can also go onto YouTube. Go to YouTube and you can see my new show with an entertainment lawyer, now turned business lawyer and entrepreneur, John Fagerholm. It's called Lawsuits and Lessons. We have entrepreneurs on every week, and we talk to them about business and the law. I know nothing about the law. He's a great lawyer, so I'm just there to ease him through. And also Coop's Comedy Corner. I get a lot of Emmy-winning writers and some of my stand-up comedian friends. That's on YouTube too. So reach out to me, Cooper at coopertalk.net. You can find me on Twitter at CooperTalk, Instagram at CooperTalk1. Remember, I'm Steve Cooper. I'm only as hip as my guest. Don't forget, drink your water, eat your vegetables, take your vitamins, and I'll talk to you next time.